Eric, well, I appreciate you joining us today. Hawke Media, I think that's the name of an agency that anyone in the agency world has heard of or familiar with. So excited to talk to you through your growth journey and just kind of understand where you started and where you are today. Maybe you could just share a little bit of background about who you are and your growth journey to date for Hawke Media.
Sure. Let's see how it could go. Always a question of how far back to go, but started Hawke in 2014. So it's been 11 and a half years. And we, started after I'd built and sold a couple e-commerce companies and was advising and consulting for a bunch of businesses and just saw that the marketing ecosystem is broken and it's still broken. Like we've been a solution, but we're such a small piece of the market, even though we've got a decent sized business now. There's, 90,000 agencies in the US. 99% of them have no idea what they're doing because there's no barrier to entry. The few that are good quickly go up market and become hard to work with. And so the thesis was, why can't we be one of the best at what we do, but easy to work with? And that was the nascence of Hawke. And, now we're 250 people. We've, worked with over 5,000 brands. We've managed over $3 billion in marketing. We've, done a lot of fun work, all around that idea of let's be the best at what we do, but easy to work with. And, touting ourselves as your outsourced CMO and marketing team. We really coined the outsourced CMO. And when I say coined, we actually own the trademark on it. It's nice. And we actually just bought, as of last week, outsourcedcmo.com. So we just got that locked in. I actually forwarded it to Hawke Media last night. So that's a fun update. And, kind of a highlight of the business in terms of like, we are always looking at what's the next expansion, what's the next path forward, how's the market changing. And, a few ways that's manifested is, number one, about a year in, I got convinced to invest in one of our friends' companies. And he basically said, hey, I want you to invest in our new company. And I said, hey, I'm not investing in startups. I spent enough time there. I had this principle of I'm going to take the money I make at Hawke and put it into really conservative assets because Hawke's volatile enough and being in the spaces. And then I tried investing in their startup, and their startup became a multi-billion-dollar company called FabFitFun. And I was like, all right, I shouldn't be as stubborn about this. I should look at some other deals. And we did really well on the angel investing side, and then decided to raise a fund. Our fund did incredibly well. It's in the top 10% of performing funds of its era. And then we raised our second fund. First fund was 5.6 million. The second fund is 20 million. Continuing to invest out of that while we start to look at maybe a third fund. And so that's all investing. How that's now starting to progress, because by the time this comes out, we'll probably have announced our deal network, where we're now opening it up to all our accredited investors in our ecosystem to co-invest with us and actually build a whole network and, sort of ecosystem of investing in the spaces that we invest in, and consumer brands and marketing technology and e-commerce technology, and really opening that up, which is exciting. And on top of that, thankfully, I was introduced to AI about a decade ago, and we started building our own pipes to power an AI tool that I thought would need to exist basically at this point in time. And so now we've built it, which is Hawke AI, and it's digesting about 6,000 companies, marketing, media, and revenue data in real time. And then we can plug in an individual company, do an instant SWOT analysis based on the market of how it's performing compared to the market, and then know where to make adjustments, how to change things. And it's really a forest from the trees view of your brand, which doesn't really exist. So that's been exciting, and all sorts of other evolutions along the way.
Yeah. And when you started out, did you start as the typical agency with one single service, or did you start multi-service?
I would say our single service was fractional CMO work, and it was me.
Okay.
So it was by myself. Then I hired my first hire was an assistant to just help me stay on top of things. And then we started doing some of the work for them, like a little influencer marketing. But at the time, I was bringing in all the agencies to serve them, like the Facebook agency or the web designer, et cetera. And that's when I found how broken it was, because I kept getting burned by agencies or trying to argue terms. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm trying to give people money and it's hard. This is stupid. And so I then just hired my own little SWAT team. But that was the original. And then immediately we went from 1 to 7 people. And those people were all experts in different verticals. So we kind of had a core suite of services from the beginning.
So you started with a top-down approach of coming in and planning out strategy, and then just taking ownership of strategy that gets planned out that way.
Yeah. And at the time, nobody understood digital. When I say nobody, most people didn't. So what we were offering was really neat. People needed a navigator, and we saw that as our value. That's definitely changed. These days, strategy is still something we offer and still something a lot of people need. But a lot of people are like, no, I just want this execution. I understand that I need meta ads, Instagram ads, TikTok, whatever. And so they're coming to us, and we've always been a la carte. So that's become sort of the bigger pitch these days is we'll plug in whatever you need when you need it. But strategy was by far our biggest service for years and started to diminish, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when people started to know more of what they needed and understand it more.
Mm-hmm. And so you're working on artificial intelligence, you're working on AI implementation. Um, you know, there's always buzz in the industry of like, is it going to take my job? And is it going to do this and that? Right.
Yep.
What do you think? What do you see happening in the agency world in the next, let's go short term. Let's go in the next 2 to 4 years, right?
Yeah.
What do you see happening there?
I just hung up on our venture meeting. We're having this discussion on an investment thesis part two, because we're looking at like a tool for creatives. And it's like, well, is a creative, workflow going to be anywhere like it is today in 2 years, 4 years? Because this investment's a decade-long investment, like any early stage company. And it's like, so it's hard to call where the puck's going in a lot of ways. And so part of it is not trying to, where it's like, just go with the flow a little bit, like watch what's happening, stay on top of it, but don't try to lead it. Because I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, And so I would say a lot's going to change. I don't actually worry about losing jobs. I think that's always sort of the fallacy of innovation, is that it kills jobs. It absolutely, their jobs are lost, meaning like what it was, a telephone switch operator when it went automatic. Like there's jobs that get lost with innovation, but it's not so drastic and so egregious that you can't pivot or slightly change but then they needed phone operators to call. And so it's like, there's going to be jobs I think more jobs will be created by AI than will be taken, as almost every innovation has shown us. And it's just going to be about individuals having the appetite to change and learn and grow. And welcome to reality. Like that's the history of mankind, has been innovation and having to change what you do because of that innovation. And so,
yeah, I mean, jobs have always been built. I mean, you think about animations, it used to be hand painting, and now then it moved to computer, right?
Yep.
And then you can build skyscrapers. Now you need somebody that can have the guts to go up 70 stories and hang and clean the windows, right?
It's funny. I talked to a guy today about that. Apparently, it's actually OSHA regulation that if the building is over 5 stories, you have to come down from the top versus come up from the bottom.
Oh, really?
That is actually a regulation. That's where that comes from. We learned that today, so I had to share it. I was like, oh, that's actually an interesting little fact.
I did not know that.
So
I never do it myself, but jobs get built around automations and innovations, right?
Yep.
And it just continues to happen. So interesting to hear that. No, and so where do you see your biggest priorities in the next 5 or 10 years? I mean, it sounds like a lot of it's investment, a lot of it's in tech.
Well, I don't want to I don't want to like dodge the question too. I do think that creative is going to change a lot in the next 2 to 4 years. I think, right now it's not there. Like when I see people saying they're using AI for creative now, I'm like, you must have really shitty creative. I've seen it all looks the same. It all looks like a overproduced, like rendered drawing that you got on Photoshop that, it's not good.
Yeah, I saw one on LinkedIn last week. Was it this week or I don't know, this week or last week? Time goes by, and it was a Rolex watch, but like one of the everything was wrong about it. The bezel was wrong, the hands were wrong, the indices were wrong, like all of it was wrong. But everybody was like, "Oh, this looks great from like standing 30 feet back." Like,
yeah, I know. But are you going to go buy a Rolex because of that ad? No,
right?
No.
Yeah.
So so it's not there yet. I don't know what it will look like when it is there, because I think authenticity is really hard to replicate. And I think that still goes a long way in ads. So again, it's going to take some new form. So just stay on top of what that new form is. So how we're looking at it, to answer that question, is there's going to be a lot more efficiency in marketing. So we're looking at it in 2 ways. One, can we serve for less? Again, we like to be accessible. So, easy to work with. So can we actually lower our prices on certain SKUs, because now we can do it for cheaper? So that's one thing we're doing to get ahead of it. But revenue compression is not great for business. So trying to make less money is not necessarily the best thing to do. It creates, makes us competitive, but that's not really been our game in terms of like, we don't want to race to the bottom. So then the other one is, how do we keep our revenue or grow our revenue by outproducing and outperforming by so much better because of these tools? So a lot of these are letting us be way better. And for us, this is like a good debate we get into. For example, like let's say we charge between 8 and 20% on advertising, but let's just use 10% as the number. So when we're arguing with people about our fees, and let's say we get someone that's going to spend $100,000 a month on ads, and we go, okay, we charge $10,000. And then they go, oh, I can probably get someone for 8. I'm like, are you arguing with me over $2,000 right now? They're like, well, yeah, it's $2,000. I'm like, okay, that $100,000 for you to have a successful business needs to produce at least, I'm ballparking, but at least $400,000 a month in revenue. Like you got to get 4x your advertising to even be scratching the surface generally. So you're going to go try to save $2,000 while risking your $400,000 outcome. Like, you're having the wrong conversation here. Like, can I make you an extra 2 grand in profit to cover my own fee? Easily. Like, you want to look at every piece of credibility, every performance, every case study we have. Like, who the fuck are you talking to that wants to race to the bottom? Because I guarantee we're going to outperform them. And so it's the making, it's kind of the same kind of argument where it's like, don't worry about what we're costing you. It's the outcome that matters in our business. And we're looking at how do we drive much bigger outcomes, because now we can leverage AI to get way more targeted with how we're messaging people through email and SMS, be way quicker to optimize on ads, as well as create way more targeted ads, et cetera, et cetera. And how do we do all these things that make things perform better so that that outcome is way higher, so that our fee is negligible and it doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm. And growth wise, I interviewed an agency owner, or a former agency owner that exited of an agency called 3Q Digital. That was a very large agency, very large agency. And
he's awesome. Dave's awesome.
Yeah. And he mentioned that a big part of their growth was M&As, right? So acquiring different agencies. Has your growth path matched that? What have you focused on more so just hiring, or has it been M&As as well?
We've done 22 acquisitions. So I don't think, now to be clear, they're more not micro, but they're smaller businesses. 3Q raised a bunch of private equity money and went for big acquisitions. We're completely independent and bootstrapped. But yeah, I believe in that strategy. I've watched that strategy, and we've closed one deal already this year. We should be closing another one today. And so they absolutely believe in the M&A strategy. And yeah, I was just on David's podcast. I think what he did is great. He's a bright guy. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, he's very, very, very smart. Well, as you're looking back at your growth path, what have been some of the biggest hurdles, or what have been some of the biggest learning opportunities that you think are common among agencies that you were able to really overcome?
The nice thing is with the M&A, I've seen a lot of the missteps. The biggest one for agencies is managing. First off, actually, I'd say the biggest one, because again, there's no barrier to entry. Like, you have to actually be good. There's plenty of agencies to choose from. You're going to have a really hard time if you're just a decent salesperson, but don't know how to actually grow a business and do marketing. And that is, I get a lot of calls from young people that are starting agencies and have no background in marketing. And it's like, I understand you can do this, meaning like you can put up a shingle on a website and say you do it. You're doing a disservice to all your clients and yourself, because you're just going to grind and build something that never grows, because you can't keep clients. None of them are going to grow, and you're going to build a shit business. So like that, don't do that. So that's number one that I always need to share, because there is a huge market of that. Number two is not getting their margins right. So to not create scalability. A lot of people undercharge for their services, which gets them really tight when they start having to hire people to do them, because they start to grow, and then they have no excess cash. They're not profiting. They get underwater. That's another big one, is like, you need to make sure you're charging what you need to charge to build a sustainable and growing business, and really model that out. Number three is recurring revenue versus project. A lot of people get the shiny object syndrome. Oh, we closed $100,000 project deal. We just made $100,000, but then it's done, and good luck. Now you can't really hire people and have any forecast ability. So project work, it's nice to get those pops of revenue, but it's really hard to build a business around that. So we really have tried to stay as close to subscription style business as possible.
Yeah. I mean, a lot to unpack there, but I mean, I think a common thing that can get overlooked, especially with like the agencies that are very sales heavy but not delivery heavy, is like your first 2 to 3 months generally you're not that profitable, right? I mean, ideally you can be, but
I disagree. I think that you should be profiting from day one and continue to profit all the way through. That doesn't mean you don't reinvest in certain things and take some of the cash you've made to do things at certain points, but no, that's my point about margins. You should be profitable right away.
So you don't necessarily spend a lot of additional time in the first 2 months on onboarding and on research and on strategy.
Oh, with an individual client. Sorry, I thought you meant when you start your agency.
No. Each client,
I try to be profitable from the beginning, because I think that creates, and it's funny because we've acquired agencies that have the philosophy you just said, and we're trying to it depends. So the only way to make that work is to then lock people into long contracts, which to me is also a problem with agencies. You're asking people to get married before they date. So I'd rather show up, do the work we need to do, be consistent, just like any person you hire. You're paying me a salary. We're going to do the work, and we're not going to lose money on it in the beginning. We're going to do the work and make the margin we need to make and be sustainable. And by the way, our clients want us to be sustainable too, because the last thing they want is for us to fall apart.
Interesting. So what does your onboarding, what does your research process look like? Is it that you're profitable in the first 2 or 3 months and then just even more profitable after that? Or do you have a very
No, it's
streamlined?
consistent. It's about like we look at it like this is the amount we're investing into this. This is what they're paying us for.
Mhm,
How do we use that time to get them the best outcome we can? So
mhm,
it actually had someone sort of say this to me. That was yesterday. It's a guy that we've worked with their clients. It's an investment fund. We worked with their portfolio companies and their clients and stuff for a long time. And he said one of the favorite things about the way you work is you look at our resources and go, we're going to go use these in the best way possible. And that's how we work. So it's not about like we're going to lose money up front and then make money later. We're going to, and our margins are going to swing. We actually want consistent margins, back to predictability. So we're going to do everything we can with what you're giving us to get the best outcome. And that seems to have driven the best outcome.
Interesting. And you said, so you don't do long-term contracts. What's your general,
So we do, but we discount for them. So it's a benefit, not a
gotcha.
demand.
Okay. What's
Yeah.
your general retention month-wise look like for clients or year-wise look like?
Our annual retention is like 80%.
Oh, wow. Okay. And
Yeah.
that's because of contracts or just be like month to month?
Mostly month to month.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
sorry, not mostly. We're trying to trend. Like now we're like incentivizing our sales team to push the annual contract stuff. So we're trending in a better direction. But, just like, if you're talking like about the best performing agencies out there, they're probably, close to 100% net revenue retention
Mhm.
because they're growing clients as fast as they're faster than they're losing. But those are the enterprise level. That's the people that are signing the Nikes and Unilevers of the world and only them. So that's a
Mhm.
lot more consistent. We have really doubled down on wanting to be the best partner to growing businesses. We don't care if you can spend 10 grand a month, 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month on marketing. Like we want to be there to help you grow. Anything less than 10 grand in terms of marketing budget, don't hire anyone. I'm really adamant on that. Like you need to build your business. But at the point you're ready to hire someone, we want to be accessible and be easy to work with. So that is something we've really doubled down on, which by nature, our business will have a slightly higher churn than like the enterprise agencies, but we're okay with that. We like where we sit.
Yeah. And do you generally work in like a pod structure? So teams with different focuses work together, or do you have departments based on like the service that's getting delivered?
It's a service getting delivered. So every TikTok advertiser works together, every email marketer works together, that kind of things.
Gotcha.
We
Okay.
believe in vertical focus.
Instead of like a pod of a TikTok, a
Right.
email, a Google, all working
Right.
together that way.
Correct.
Okay.
No, they're all used to working with different teams and different projects. And I like that. It brings a lot more diversity of thought and everyone gets exposed to different things. I've seen that, like we've been doing this 12 years. That's been a good strategy.
Interesting. Okay. Very cool. Well, this has been a lot to unpack, a lot to go through here, a lot
Yeah.
of good insights. If someone's trying to get in contact with you or learn more about Hawke Media, what are generally the best places to go for that?
Social for me, @ Erik Huberman. Really easy to find. Very active on social, or hawkemedia.com or outsourcecmo.com.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Well, Erik, I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.